Okay, so one of the most common used tools in Maya is Extrude, and Extrude works best with faces. So if you're in object mode and then you right click on your object and go into face mode, now you can select the face and extrude it. You can do it two ways. You can hit Control E, which is the shortcut, and you'll see your cursor or your tool change. It looks like all tools combined in one, but you're only seeing the middle part of the move tool. So if you grab the arrow here, even though it looks like there's nothing's happened here, I do have another face there. So if I pull on the move arrow on the direction of the face, I see I do have another face in there. If you wanted to, for example, scale this face or rotate it, you have that option with the tool in here. You can click on one of the cubes. If you just click on it and not drag on it, you will see the middle of the scale tool. So here's the cubes for the scale tool. When you click on one of them, the middle one shows up. So now you can scale in all axes. Same with the rotation tool. If you click on the circle around, you can rotate the face with this circle, the blue circle, but that rotates it on the angle the camera is viewing the polygon. So if I'm looking at it from this angle, the outer circle will rotate it on that circle, and that's usually kind of hard to gauge which direction is rotating. It's usually easier to click on the circle and have the other axes show up, the other axi I should say. So if you want to rotate on the z-axis, now you know exactly in which axis is rotating. Or if you want to go back to one of the other tools, you can just click on one of them and the rest of them will show up. The other thing you can do with Extrude, which is pretty handy, is actually can just have the move tool or any of the either the rotation or the scale tool selected. So for example, you have this face selected to move it. If you hold down shift, you see how when I mouse over the move tool, it now says extrude. So now it will extrude onto shift, and when you pull, now you see it's extruding a new face in there. Another handy thing that the extrude tool can do is extrude phases along normals. So normal is face, or a polygon is where is that polygon looking towards. So in this case, I have two faces in opposite directions. If I hit extrude now, either from the edit mesh menu here or use the shortcut Control E, you'll see the extrude tool shows up on one of the faces only. But if I pull that face out, you'll see the other face is moving along its normal direction. So it's going to work as a mirror. You know, it's pretty handy actually, because the changes you do on one face will happen on the other side also. And you know, you can hit 4 here on the keyboard to see the wireframe, and you can see it happen actually. You know, you can extrude on both directions at the same time. Also, another thing that is very handy is keeping faces together or separating. So I'm going to extrude this face here, so we have two faces. You can select two faces, extrude them, and when you move them out, the two faces are going to be together. They're welded together, so they'll work as a unit afterwards. But if you look at the options here for the extrude menu, there's keep faces together that you can turn off. Now these faces are separate, and once you complete the action here, I'm gonna hit Q or click on the pointer here to get rid of the extrude tool. Now if I move this face, just because I selected keep faces separate, now I have two faces that are separate from each other, so they're independent. So that can come very handy. You know, you can select different faces on an object and move them separate. One problem you might run into, I have a couple shapes here. When you're extruding, let's say you have this cylinder. Let me go into object mode so I can zoom in on that. And let's say you want to extrude some of these faces, and you'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. So when you extrude, the extrude tool will tend to keep or preserve the shape of the object you're extruding. So it's trying to preserve the shape of the cylinder here. So it's going to extrude that way when you move it. If you did not want that, there's two things you can do. Let's say you want it to, so I'm going to undo the extrude here. Let me make sure it's gone. Yeah, it's gone. So if you wanted to not preserve that shape but just extrude in one direction, you can either hit extrude or Control E and then switch to the move tool by hitting W or going up here and hitting move. And now if you move it, you know, that shape is not preserving it's not fanning out like before. It's not preserving the cylinder shape. Now you have this other shape here that you can work by itself because you already have it selected. You can flatten it and do something different. It kind of looks like a whistle. And one more thing about extrude is, let me just go into object mode and see all my objects. You can also extrude along a curve. So I have this cube here with a face in front of and a curve in front of this face. So if you don't know how to create curves, you can go into the curves and surfaces menu, and this last tool, it looks a lot like a tool you might be familiar with, Illustrator or Photoshop. You just click and drag to create curves and click to make straight lines. Hit enter to complete and delete it. But I already put a curve here in front of the cube. I'm going to select the face and extrude it along that curve. So I'm going to select the face and hold shift and select the curve. Now if I extrude, so I'm going to hit Control E, you'll see that face is extruded along that curve. The problem is it's not following it. And that is because there's not enough geometry or subdivisions on this extrusion to follow the shape. But if you look on the menu, you have divisions in here that you can increase. So the extrusion is able to follow that curve more closely. And then you have other options here you can play with for the extrusions. You know, I didn't show them because I know you can just mouse over the name and drag over them, see what they do. We only use divisions and keep faces together. But that's all about extrude.